What's going on, guys? For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, we're going to be talking about the brand new Harry Potter show that is going to be coming out within maybe the next 2 to 3 years, because we just got 6 confirmed castings. That's right, 100% confirmed castings. Some of these roles are bigger than others, but either way, we're going to be going through each one, and I'm going to give you guys my own thoughts on whether or not I actually think they're good picks for the actors that we're going to be talking about here today, or if I think in a way they kind of fumble, but at the same time, we haven't seen the show yet, right? We haven't seen what they're going to do with these actors and stuff, but still, I want to give my initial thoughts because I have a lot of thoughts about the show as a whole. First of all, Harry Potter is one of my favorite franchises. I never get to talk about it because, of course, it's been basically done for years now. Not a big Fantastic Beasts guy, quite honestly, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of the movies. And one thing that I do want to make clear, just to give you guys the context here, I have not read the Harry Potter books. You could kill me if you want, but I'm looking at what I'm about to talk about through the lens of a Harry Potter movie fan. If you don't want to agree with me, you want to just, push me away because I've never read the books, fine. If you're a purist like that, I guess, more power to you. But at the same time, I'm just a movie Harry Potter fan. That's about it. I love the films. They're some of my favorites ever. But let's just dive right into this cast. We're going to start off here. I made this presentation just to make things easier with the least interesting character, I guess you could say. And we're going to work our way up to the most interesting character, in my opinion, maybe based off popularity and stuff. But let's just get right into things here. The first character that was cast was Filch. Filch, of course, he's like the creepy guy kind of wandering around the castle, right? He's almost like the maintenance guy in a way, but I like the role he plays in this film. Not like the most crucial character to the story, quite honestly. David Bradley, as you guys can see on the bottom, this is the way that each of the slides are going to be. We've got the new actor on top, the character in the middle, and then the old actor on the bottom. Paul Whitehouse has been cast as Filch. I'm looking at this guy. I'm looking at David Bradley. Quite honestly, they both just look like old, raggedy, scary British guys, in my opinion. I think this is great casting. I mean, I don't know how much better you could have done. I don't think it really matters necessarily too much how Filch looks, but at the same time, kind of has like that scary kind of uncle look or something. I don't know. I'm making things up here. But at the same time, I think they nailed this one. I really don't think there's too much to it. And again, once maybe they give him like a wig, once they really do him up with the makeup artist and stuff and, the costume and all that, I think this could be a really great role and maybe a character that hopefully we'll get to see more of, especially because this show is obviously going to be giving us more since it's going to be going over, a season per book, basically. We're going to get to see a lot of things that we didn't get to see in the movies just because of runtime, which is a reason that honestly I'm a big fan of them making this show because we'll always have the movies, but I digress. Let's move on. Next up, we've got Professor Quirrell. Now listen, of course Quirrell is going to be cast because he's in that first book, he's in the first movie. Probably not going to be past that first film, but at the same time, Ian Hart played him in the first, as you guys can see him in the middle there as well and on the bottom. And Luke Fallon, I'm pretty sure is how you say his name, has been cast. I feel like Quirrell's always like this frantic guy, right? Because he's basically like the host to this evil parasite that is Voldemort with the thing on the back of his head, of course. I'm looking at him. I feel like his face looks similar to Ian Hart, at least, maybe not on the bottom picture because he's a bit older in that picture, but in the middle picture, I could see him being kind of crazy and being kind of wacky and you don't really know what's going on with him. I could see him being like a weird guy. I'm not going to act like I've ever seen Luke Fallon in anything before. This is the first time that I'm ever hearing of him, but I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, I can see that guy being Quirrell. I'm not going to sit here and, nitpick a smaller character like this, especially because just based off, the litmus test of that he looks pretty good, I have to say I really like this casting. Now, in my opinion, we've got past the first 2 easy ones, but the next 4, honestly, are heavyweights. They are big characters in the Harry Potter franchise. They're not the top 3 with Hermione, Ron, and Harry, but at the same time, they're pretty big roles. First of all, we've got McGonagall with Janet McTeer playing the role. I've seen her in Ozark as the lawyer. She's like the cartel's lawyer. And of course, may she rest in peace, Maggie Smith playing the role. She played the hell out of McGonagall. I feel like she was like that motherly auntie figure to Harry Potter, of course. Always being there at his side. Of course, sometimes she'd have to show him tough love, but that's just because, at the end of the day, she had to show everybody who was boss. And I really like that. I feel like she was kind of badass. She had her moments. I want to make one thing clear. Honestly, I love this casting. I am so in love with this casting. Second I saw this, first of all, again, like I said, I haven't seen her since Ozark, Janet I'm referring to. So honestly, I don't know what she's been up to. I saw this casting and I was just like, oh my god, they look so alike in a way. Of course, Janet's a bit on the younger side, especially compared to McGonagall, in the later movies, kind of in this picture. But her look She definitely has like that stern look. Looks like she could be, you know, sort of uptight if she has to be, but also have a softer side to her, like a motherly side. I think this is awesome casting, and I already know she's a great actress as well because I've seen her in Ozark again. So I love this casting, and up to this point in the slideshow, this is my favorite casting. But honestly, it might be my favorite casting overall out of the new 6. Next up, we're going to be moving on to Hagrid. Hagrid's going to be played by Nick Frost. I think that this is like pretty much the most well-known actor on this list outside of another one we're going to be talking about in a second. But Nick Frost, of course, very close with Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright for the Cornetto trilogy. Well-known sort of comedic actor. I love this casting. Let's just keep it simple. May Robbie Coltrane rest in peace, man. He played Hagrid extremely well. But Nick Frost, I mean, look at the guy. I think the reality is he does have like this ogre look to him that's not even like an offensive thing. It's just how he is. He's a bit on the bigger side, I guess you could say. Again, I'm not being mean to the guy. I'm just saying he fits the role perfectly. And I could just see him having like this big, warm, fuzzy side. Maybe he's a bit clumsy, sort of like Hagrid is. And I really don't have too many complaints. He looks like he's the right age to play the role. He doesn't look like too young or too old, especially if this show's going to come out in like 2 years or something. I'm a really big fan of this. Nick Frost, I'm happy that they're getting not the biggest actors to play these roles, but every once in a while they'll be like, hey, you know what? We're casting some smaller people. Let's give a pretty decent name a role. I kind of like that mix. I feel like that's what they need to do. Sort of mix this cast with veteran actors and newer actors, like Luke Thallon, who I've never heard of before. I'm just saying, no offense to him, of course. Again, I wish him the best. I'm excited to see him. I actually think it's really great casting. But yeah, I like that they're doing like this mix of newer actors, younger actors, and older veteran actors, whether they're A-listers or even just B or C, whatever. I'm a big fan of this casting. Next up, we are going to be looking at Dumbledore. I mean, this is a big boy. This is a big boy role right here. First of all, rest in peace, both Richard Harris and Michael Gambon. I've got a picture of Michael Gambon on here just because he played Dumbledore later, and also he played him more in comparison to Richard Harris, who was Dumbledore for, I believe, the first 2 films. Dumbledore, of course, an iconic look, I would say. I feel like this is a character where you really gotta nail the look, because Dumbledore, it's like he's always one step ahead of you. He's kind of clever, but sometimes you don't know if he's just being an idiot or if he's being smart. Of course, he's got that sort of McGonagall thing going on where he's got to be the boss, but he's got that open, loving side to him. They cast John Lithgow. John Lithgow is a phenomenal actor. I really like the casting. I think that he has a baby face, as you guys can see in this picture. It's not like he has a beard or anything. But of course, once the makeup artists get on, I could see him being a really great Dumbledore. And just to sort of, make it clear here, I do really like this casting. But I have one major problem with this casting that I feel like no one's talking about. John Lithgow, at this point in time, okay, and again, this show might not be coming out for 2 more years, is 87 years old. 87 years old. Not 77 or 67, 87. They haven't started filming. They haven't started doing this or this or this. I feel like to an extent, even though this is a great actor, right? They're setting themselves up for failure. Now listen, of course, I'm trying to be respectful here. I'm not trying to be harsh and be like, this guy's going to drop dead tomorrow. No. But at the same time, I can't be naive and just go along with the flow here. He's really up there in age, and there's a legitimate chance that he does not live to see the end of the series in real life. And like, again, if he wants to play the role, they offered it to him. He's like, let's go, let's do it. I hope he could play Dumbledore for the whole franchise. But at the same time, this series might go on like a decade plus, and I don't know if he's still going to be here, and this might be another Richard Harris, Michael Gambon situation. But again, I'm a bit mixed on this one because I do like the casting, but behind the scenes, this just seems like a setting us up for failure, bad pick. But I mean, it is a good pick overall. Great actor. I'm not like doubting them, of course. And finally, we've got to rip it off like a band-aid. We've got to talk about the most controversial pick on here. It's going to be Snape. Snape, of course, was portrayed by Alan Rickman. May he rest in peace. A lot of the actors on here, unfortunately, have passed away. Out of the 7 actors I mentioned on here, including the 2 Dumbledores, I believe 5 have passed away. Kind of crazy, man. May they rest in peace. Of course, we've got Papa Acedo. I believe that's how you say his name, playing Snape. Obviously, to rip the band-aid off, because I'm not just going to ignore it, they are race-swapping the character, which I don't have an issue with. I think that's perfectly fine. However, with that being said, I think that I need to talk about the character of Snape, and I need to talk about why I personally believe, for 2 legitimate reasons, because there are some losers that have horrible reasons, why this actually is a bad idea. Now again, listen to me, there are some legitimately just like racist people out there that are just like, I don't want Snape to be black, but I have 2 reasons why I actually think this is a bad choice in the context of the story. Let me start off with the first one. Just looking at Papa Aceto, I look at Alan Rickman, I should say, right? Snape is supposed to sort of be this uglier character, right? He's a bit, like, I think Alan Rickman's a pretty handsome guy, but he's more of an acquired taste type of handsome in a way where, of course, you know, they make him all pale, they give him the wig. He's supposed to be almost, like, uglier. I think Papa Aceto is honestly just a very handsome guy, and I feel like it's going to be hard to sell that he's, like, this weird misfit. Even if he's acting weird, I'm going to be looking at this guy like, this is a really handsome man. Like, and I'm giving this guy credit. I'm sure he's a great actor. I haven't really seen him in anything, but I've heard great things about him. So, you know, I guess the people that I've heard vouch for him. I'm not doubting his acting ability. Legitimately, just look-wise, though, I'd almost argue that being slightly ugly, or at least just not super handsome, is crucial to the character of Snape because of the fact that Lily Potter, of course, goes with James. So then everyone's going to be thinking, like, wait, why'd she go with James if this guy's so handsome? And of course, I know they met when they were kids or whatever, but it's just the point. And I need to bring up the second point. And this is honestly pretty awkward to talk about, but it's just a reality. It is going to be the fact that they did race swap the character for one reason. James Potter, of course, and I saw this online, and I was kind of laughing because I'm like, wait, what are they going to do about this? James Potter, of course, bullies Snape. That happens in the movies from what I've seen, of course, in the flashbacks, right? And then Lily, you know, they were friends, then Lily ends up going with James. The problem here for me is that even though James Potter, Harry's dad, it's clear that he had an ego, right? He was sort of like the most popular kid. He was still a pretty good guy, I guess you could say, at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's not like he was really a bad guy. Yeah, he bullied Snape and stuff, and that's a bad thing to do, right? But it wasn't like he was some horrible person. It's very clear in the movies, at least. Again, in the movies that I've seen, it's very clear he's not a bad person. Maybe he just did a bad thing when he was younger, okay? And then even into his teenage years, sure. But it's clear that Harry still loves him. A lot of people still loved him. What's his face? Sirius Black. I mean, everyone talks about him in great fashion, right? And yes, he was mean to Snape. The problem here is that now James Potter is being mean to a kid that's another race than him. And now it kind of starts to look like James is picking on Snape for that reason. And I'm not saying that is going to be the reason, right? Because I could bully someone just because I think they're weird and not because of the color of their skin, whatever. But it looks that way. Whereas in the movies, you know, Alan Rickman, of course, well, they have a kid in the flashbacks, of course, is white. So it's just like a white kid bullying another white kid. I think it's a bit awkward when you have a white kid bullying a black kid, if that makes sense. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? That's one reason why, in context of the film, I think it doesn't really make sense to race swap the character. But at the same time, I'm sure they'll work around it. I'm sure that it'll be very clear that he was just bullying him or whatever, but I think it's just going to become some discussion online in like a decade from now, once we see some of the flashbacks and stuff. I do think it's a bit awkward, and again, I'm not saying like, oh, I don't want them to race swap this character because, oh, Snape should be white. No, I'm just saying that legitimately in the context of the story, it recontextualizes what we are seeing in a way, and I feel like a lot of people are going to take it the wrong way, when of course that's not the reason. And again, James Potter is a flawed character for sure, right? He literally bullies Snape, and he steals Snape's girl, kind of. Not that that's really his fault, he's just clearly got better game. But I do think it just makes things a bit weird. But at the same time, I'm pretty excited to see what he does with it. I hope that he's going to have like this weird charm to him. He's all stern, he's stuck up, he's treating Harry bad. He's like being like mean to all the students and being weird. I have full faith in this actor. I just feel like they sort of almost set him up for failure as well in a way, especially with the fans and stuff. But listen, I'm excited to see what all these actors do. I'm excited to see what they do with this show. Let me know what you guys think down below, because I'm very excited to see what they do with the Harry Potter show. But listen, that's going to just about wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.